Hey friends, so welcome back to DBC Inc. Live. We are so excited that you joined in with us tonight. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied this evening. Please do comment over in the comment section. Let us know who is joining us, where you're from, and tell us something good. You know, it's my favorite thing to ask you to do on Thursdays is tell us something good. We are getting close to Friday, and it's just an exciting time for all of us. So we have a special guest on the show. She's my dear friend, my author sister, an incredible educator, author, speaker, just a beautiful human. I love spending time with her. So Jenn Casa-Todd, she is also the author of Social Media, and she has a new book coming out that we put the cover up here for you to see, Raising Digital Leaders. And I'm excited about her new book. But before we go into all of the book stuff, Jennifer, please do formally introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are, where you're from, what you're doing.
Thank you. And I love being here, just spending time with you. I just think it's amazing, and all of you. So thank you for being here. Something good is I'm on spring break. I'm from Ontario, Canada. We normally have a March break, which is in the second week of March. So we never go to school on St. Patrick's Day. But because of all things COVID, it got pushed. And you know what? It's been kind of a neat thing to have a spring break in April. So that is super exciting. So I'm a teacher librarian in Ontario, Canada. That's what I'm doing right now, supporting teachers and students with a closed library, unfortunately. And but I'm also a mom. I'm a GEG Ontario leader, so we're doing professional learning there. I work with the ISTE Librarians Group and on the professional learning team there. And Google Innovator, I'm presenting, which has been a lot of fun, presenting to parents, presenting to educators. And so, yeah, it all keeps me busy.
You are a busy lady, for sure. I am so excited that you took some time out to join us tonight and share some tips and tricks for what we're going to share later. But before we dive into the content of the PD, thanks, Linda, for joining us from Ohio. Before we dive into the content, I would love for you to tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about your two books. I mean, just a quick synapse, because remember, all the comments over in the comment section are entered to win a free book. You're entered to win Social Media. Sorry, Raising Digital Leaders is not out yet, but Social Media is. And that's the one we're giving away tonight. So If you want to be a winner, you just need to put some comments over in the comment section. So anything you hear tonight you want to comment on, or if you have questions, drop those over in the comment section. All right, Jenn, so tell us a little bit about the two books.
Okay, so Social Media was written, it's now 2017. But literally, people are DMing me all the time to say how absolutely relevant it is to now. It is about empowering students to be leaders in online spaces. It is based on originally the idea of George Couros, which is digital leadership as using technology and social media to improve the lives, well-being, and circumstances of others. And so really, I tell stories about my own experiences, but I think my favorite part of the book is that I highlight some incredible students doing incredible things. And I also highlight teachers who are leveraging social media in their classrooms to help their students lead in online spaces. Because so often the barrier is the district blocks and bans, or teachers don't even know where to start with some of this online etiquette and things. We've really had to learn that in COVID, but this is best practices and examples from all over the world. And so it's just such a labor of love for me, because it was celebrating the awesome of so many people. And I should talk about Raising Digital Leaders is kind of the parent companion to that. So we know how important it is to have a really close connection between school and family, especially when we know how many students are using social media more and more, how ubiquitous technology is. So Raising Digital Leaders is a practical guide for parents to navigate technology in their homes. And then obviously there's a connection to school. And in that book, I also celebrate student digital leaders, and I bring in parent voices, including Shelley. I'm so honored that she contributed a parent vignette to that book.
So exciting. We are so excited. And that one's so close to coming out. So keep your eyes open and peeled back, ready for that release date. It won't be very much longer for sure. So thanks for joining us today. And Jen, we talked a little bit about this before the show about, sharing these simple tips for helping others, our students, anyone, I guess, promote kindness and empathy and critical thinking online. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to share, some tips that our viewers can take and use tomorrow or in the next hour.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I think what I want to do is just set it up with, we all want our kids to be kind, empathetic students, people, humans. And we also, I know fake news, misinformation is such a problem. And we really want our kids to be critical thinkers. And so I feel like it's so important for us to explicitly put this in wherever we can. I know we have so much to do as teachers, like so much on our plate, but I think that really doing little things to focus empathy, like just focus a lens on empathy, kindness, and critical thinking are really important. So my first really quick idea is the idea of thanking content creators. And I know that sounds a little bit strange, but there's a really great YouTube hack. So if you, in the middle of your YouTube link, put a little hyphen between the T and the U, all of the other stuff disappears. And so I know sometimes we worry about using YouTube itself with our students, but one of the things I recommend is that we take 2 minutes after we watch any YouTube channel in our classes to say, you know what, that was a really great YouTube video. Let's take a minute to thank the creator. It's something that we don't often think about. It's not something that's going to take a little bit of time, a lot of time, but it's really going to create a culture of gratitude. And you can do this when, I know you do some author talks. I know I do. Find the author on Twitter or Instagram or Goodreads, and together co-construct or co-create a thank you. I know our school was just involved in, we connected with an organization called Impact Without Contact. They're just a great organization created by a couple of high school students here in Ontario. I connected our student council students with them, and they created a school-wide initiative where we thanked healthcare workers. All the classes distributed something. We created a movie, and it was one of the best feelings. So really just taking the time to thank creators, I think would go a long way.
And it's easy. That's so easy to do, right?
It is.
And it means so much. I would say there's probably many times we use these YouTube videos in our classrooms or even in presentations, even when we're sharing some different things and we'll share like, I love this YouTube video. I can't remember how many times, honestly, if I'm being honest with myself, that I've gone back and said, hey, I love this video so much that I actually shared it with kids today because it's so good.
Right?
Like, it's so easy to do, but then having your whole class, like, should they be learning virtually? It'd be so easy for them to jump on and just say, hey, our teacher showed us this video today, and this is what I thought about it.
Yes. And I would say, and not all teachers would do this, but I would say, do it anonymously and say it would be really cool if they get this anonymous, really great message, because so often we associate anonymous with negativity. Wouldn't it be great if we started to create a culture of anonymous being positive too? And that really goes a long way, because when you think of kids who are, bullied online, or, people are mean to them, if kids don't always feel comfortable coming out in person to wrap them in their love, even though we know that that's what's important. Even just knowing that you can thank people, show kindness anonymously is really, really important. Hey, Dave. Hi, everybody. Another really quick thing. I love Melissa Hayes is a sister from another mister. I love her so much. And one of the things that she shared on Twitter, which she gave me her approval to share, is what she does is every Monday, she puts all of the names of her students on a wheel of names, and then she spins the wheel. And so every student in the class is going to be featured on a Celebrate Monday, and everyone in the class, now she's virtual, you can do this if you're in a hybrid, every student in the class talks about why they're so grateful for that student and write something kind about them. And what an incredible way to really make everyone feel like they're part of a family, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then another really great idea in social media, actually, I showcase Robert Canone. And what he does in his class is he has classroom committees. They're kind of making a comeback. I've heard a little bit of talk about them, but what he did, when I talked to his students in grade 6, he said, actually, his students said, we're like one big part of a family. We're all puzzle pieces in one big puzzle, which is our classroom. And so he has students that were like the public relations committee. So they would, create the blog at the end of the week, or they would create what the Twitter is going to say, what they're learning. Well, why not have someone in the committee who's the kindness hero, and they rotate through those jobs as well. It would just be such a wonderful way to really make kids feel like they're a part of something, and build that element of kindness. Again, make it a part of it, and exemplify it all the time. We know that Albert Bandura's theory of observational learning tells us that kids, right, they see that the modeling really, really is important. And I can't talk about kindness without jumping in and talking about Tamara Letter, author of Passion, Kindness. And every year she has these passion projects. So she actually creates opportunities for kids to write and think and research and present, right? All of those really important language skills. But what they're creating is an opportunity for kindness. And so I love that so much.
And there's so many things out there too that kids can do, so say the kindness committee, that's your job in the classroom, which I love that idea. Yeah. Then being able to brainstorm with other students ways that you can be kind within your school. I mean, that alone just helps them to look for reasons, look for things to like highlight and to share good, and I think too often, all it takes is, and Tamara talks about this in her book, it really just takes an awareness. Because as soon as you look around, you realize there's so many opportunities to be kind. There's so many ways to show kindness. And it's unlimited. But having the kids brainstorm those, I think would just be so powerful.
And I think that's often there's we can be kind in person, but what about online? And for me, this is why I think COVID has really brought social media back to the forefront, because people are like, wait, Jenn was sharing all of these ideas, right, in social media about how we can be kind, how we can be empathetic. Like, it's not just being kind in person. You can be kind online. And I'm sure so many of you, even in the chat, I'm recognizing so many great names, have thought about ways to make sure our kids feel connected to one another. And that's such an important part of it, to make us all feel like we belong.
And I would say, if you're in the chat too right now and you're thinking of ways that you've actually had your students share their kindness, or ways that they have shared that they appreciated people online, do drop those over in the comments for everybody to see, because a lot of people watch this on the playback. So those ideas will be there, living there. So that'll be great.
I'd love to see them. Thank you. Yes. So when we talk about empathy, so one of the things that I engage in a lot as a teacher librarian with other teachers is the design thinking process. I'm actually going to share all this stuff. I think I throw it all in a presentation, and I'm going to give it to everyone. There's a link to my template that I've created for design thinking. But what is so powerful about design thinking is you're thinking of a problem, you're defining it, and then you need to empathize. Like, it's literally a part of the process, right? What do you know about these people? What do you know about the people in the world, or the people you're trying to help, or whatever the solution is? I was working with a science teacher, and they were trying to create something that would help with climate change. It would be either an invention or an innovation. And I remember one group of students, they got stuck on that empathy piece because they were trying to create something for people in Mumbai, like far away. And I said, okay, let's jump into Google Earth. Like, let's look around and let's do a little bit of research. What do we know about this community, these people beyond the very superficial? And that was such a powerful thing for those students. And then part of the design thinking process is that students get feedback from one another. And so what I created was conversation starters, because I think this is another thing we kind of expect, or we kind of like, people are going to be kind. I don't need to model this. People know how to agree or disagree or build upon each other's ideas. They really don't. So I had to create for this class and for these students ways in which they could build on students' ideas and ways that they could thoughtfully disagree. So for example, respectfully disagree. I could see why you say that, but have you thought about? Or I respectfully disagree with that point. And I know I run the Global Ed Student Chat. This is a student-led chat, which you are a part of, right?
I love that chat.
So such an amazing learning opportunity, right? But we have norms every month. Like every time we engage in discussion, we bring out those norms. You know, we don't say, oh, well, everybody knows the norms by now. No, we explicitly talk about how to disagree with an idea, not a person. And I think that's super, super important that we model that. Another thing did you want to jump in? I'm just motoring along here.
Oh, no, I couldn't agree more. And I experienced this today on Twitter. I mean, it's constant, right? And it's with adults, so I know we need to model this with students because we had experienced this with adults on the regular. And I love you. If you're watching this on the playback, I love you. But I do think there's a way to disagree. We don't have to agree, and you don't have to be an echo chamber. And I think it's really important that we aren't echo chambers for everything, because that doesn't teach our kids well either. And I feel like that's kind of how I was taught as a kid, like, be quiet and agree, and that's it. That's kind of like how I was taught, as a little kid. But I think it's really important to help our students and our learners and our adult learners too out there realize your voice is very important and what you have to say is so important, but there's just a way of going about it, right? I respectfully disagree. We can agree to disagree and we can still love each other. Yes. Okay. Yeah. But I think it's really important to start teaching our students, Monica, even at the elementary age. I see you talking about preschool age. It's so important to start teaching them, no, I don't agree with that point, and this is why. It's not you that I don't love because you disagree with me. I just don't agree with that idea, and this is why. And the more open-minded we can be to that, just the better our world will be, and also the more empathetic. Because really, they kind of go hand in hand. When you start to see other people's perspective, then you develop new levels of empathy. And so,
exactly. And that's absolutely. And that's thinking critically too. So I do have a lesson that I'm going to share, and it's a very simple thing. I learned it from Julie Millen. It's in social media, but it's 4 hats perspective. So you could do it on the fly. You don't need my template. You just, after a story that you read or an article that you read or whatever the case may be, and the more you do it, the better kids get at it. So you're going to be the role of the mom, and you're going to be the role of the mayor. You're going to be, right? So originally when I worked with teachers, I say, okay, we were deciding, are we going in-person school or are we staying remote? And there's a lot of disagreement there, and right. And so, but we wear the 4 hats. So now I'm a politician. What am I thinking? What am I saying? And why? And I'm a mom of a student with special needs who at home is not thriving. I'm a student who really is enjoying remote learning. right? I get to do my own thing at my own pace. And so I think wearing those different hats, getting that different perspective, like you said, is just so important, because we can't empathize if we can't see the perspective of others. And trying to build in that perspective is also critical thinking, because we're making judgments, we're role playing, we're trying to figure it out, right? And so that's a really simple, simple. It's not simple, but when we do it with regularity, then you get better at it, and you'll hear your kids say, "Well, I wonder what the other person would say." The other really powerful question is, whose voice is missing?
Yeah.
Whose voice is missing? That's an incredibly powerful critical literacy, critical thinking, and empathy tool, right? If you can identify whose voice is missing and what that omission, what impact that omission has, then that moves you a long way towards empathy.
I agree. I think too, that could be, it seems like that could be done in groups, so
100%.
this group is a politician. So say I'm not really sure what a politician might be thinking about this. You have three other minds to, if you're a group of four, you have three other minds to kind of, okay, what do you think a politician would be thinking about this? Or say I'm not a parent, and so I can't really understand from that perspective, but within my group, there are parents, or if they're students, they're like, okay, here's what my parents are saying. Here's what my parents are saying. They have all these different, that even gives you more perspective. So you can come to one that you're going to share out. And this is what we think a parent would have to say about this situation. I love that idea. I love it so much. And I think with staff meetings, we would do well to remember all the different stakeholders within our community, because I think oftentimes we're missing voices when we're making some of those decisions, or we're making some of those judgments. I mean, I've been on the back end of that and been like, oh, the district office. And then one day I became the district
right?
office.
So did I.
I started working there, and I was like, I don't want to be the district office. But I started to understand all the moving parts up there that I didn't see and I couldn't see when I was in the classroom. So I think it's really important to have that missing voice piece too.
Yeah. And for me, it's so connected to understanding, because we're talking about online too, the media triangle, right? So if you're not familiar with the media triangle, it's here's the text, here's the audience, and then here's the production. And somewhere in there is meaning, right? But that media text is constructed by someone who has a value opinion, and then you're interpreting that message based on your own values and your experiences and your own biases, right? And so all of that is in play. So that's why it's so important that we help kids to construct media and deconstruct media so they understand how it works, because critical thinking is so much a part of that. Fake news, right? All of that is incumbent on understanding how media works. For sure.
Yes. And we have to get, as humans, and I know you guys are all in here, we're preaching to the choir here, right? The people that are watching the show probably, but you're working with students, or you're working with learners of some age. And so you have this opportunity to impact change. And we have to, and I love what Linda was talking about, how she has her kids, and I've been a part of the Ron Clark Academy. I'm slide certified, so I can speak to this. But I've seen the kids actually stand and disagree like that, very respectfully, and the other kid will stand and kindly disagree again with their points and sharing their opinions. And we have to create a culture to where it's normalized, that we can stand and disagree, and you can stand and disagree, and still after hearing all the points you still disagree, and you go out and you're still a part of that community. You've not disowned anyone. You're not, I know there's doesn't work for every single situation. I mean, there's maybe some situations you have to break ties. I get that. But I'm talking about ideas in the classroom, and when we're sharing ideas, it's at some point I feel like it has to become normalized that we can voice our opinions, and they don't have to all be the same. And it's still a very productive conversation. We're going away and we're still thinking about what was said, and maybe we still didn't change our mind. That's fine. But there was productive conversation and meaningful conversation that took place.
And I think what's so cool, like literally, and we've seen this in COVID, right? Like so many of us were doing this, like have been doing this for many years, but connecting globally with other classrooms to literally learn with the world, right? With students in the world. If you're reluctant to do that, I know the Within app has some incredible virtual reality films that will take you into, will take you into a refugee camp and have a Clouds Over Cedra is one that I've used often, where a little girl, 9 years old, takes you around her refugee camp. So then you bring in text and then you bring in the discussions, but you have this really this fulsome picture now because you've actually been able to connect or understand the experiences of others and what that looks like. And I think that is such a powerful thing that we can bring to our kids. These global connections, these experiences, the ability to look at anything from a variety of different perspectives, right? And in order to make a judgment. And I think what you said before about get kids in groups, I think this has to fall under the gradual release of responsibility, right? As a teacher, we need to model, we need to move, right? This is not stuff that necessarily comes easily to students. It does for some, but our role as teachers leading that is so, so, so important.
Yes. And being the facilitator, like you said, being the facilitator. And the more I feel like, Jen, the more that we have those opportunities, then we do eventually have this potential to create these great conversationalists out into the world and into the community, because they had this facilitator on the side that could guide them, like, okay, I can tell you're getting really emotional about this. And that's actually okay, because that means you're passionate about this topic. But we need to get to, helping them to get to a place where they can communicate their feelings more clearly, and diplomatically, so it's not harsh, or mean in any way. But having that facilitator on the side to guide them along the way, and then they're ready to go ahead and take it to the next level until they eventually can just do that on their own. And it's important for us as teachers to be able to create those for students.
And the one last thing, I love that. Students get in groups and role play different interested parties. That's awesome, Amy. Thank you for sharing. One other thing I really want to share on the idea of, I think it combines all of it, right? Because it's asking students to describe, analyze, interpret, and evaluate. And as soon as you're asking kids to do all of those things, they need to they need to be able to agree, disagree. And it's Noah Daniel. I'm not sure if you know her or her role. She's fabulous, a fabulous educator here from Toronto. So I've met her several times. And what she does is she has something called Photo Friday. So Friday Photo, it's called. I will include it on my slides, but you can look up that hashtag. So she brings up a picture from the news. And the students have to first describe what they actually see without making any judgments. Just describe, what do you see in the photo? There's a shadow here, there's a cloud, there's a little girl, right? Because so often we jump to evaluate. Then they have to analyze, which means they're asking questions about what's happening in this photo. Only then can they interpret based on what they've described, the questions that they've asked. They look at the photo again and they infer or interpret what they think might happen. And finally, evaluate is they create a title. And I keep looking at the kinds of images she gives her kids. And these are incredible conversations that she's having in her classes. You could tell because she puts it on a Jamboard and all the kids have to have a voice and they put their ideas down. They're getting better and better. And eventually she releases the responsibility to them. So now they're bringing in pictures. And so it's that deconstructing media, it's that collaborating with one another, it's that critical thinking. I have a template. I'm going to share it in the YouTube chat. It's just fabulous for all. I feel like it's all of those things, right? Because you have to be kind to one another if you don't agree with one another. And you have to have built you have to feel safe within the class.
Right.
As well.
No, that's amazing. So it's called Photo Friday?
It's called Friday Photo. Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah, and I have, like I
Yeah.
said, a Jamboard link I can throw in. I have a whole presentation here that I did create for you because I needed it as a visual cue, but I'll throw the link in here so you can have a look
Yeah,
at
that
it.
would be awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that idea too. And I also love, after you've modeled it for so long, then you eventually just release it and the kids start bringing in the pictures
Yes.
because then they know what to, what should we look for? What would be a good picture to bring in and what's going to create a great conversation, going to pique
Exactly.
interest. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think what's so important about that is that it then it taps on our implicit biases too, right? So we're talking about like this is culturally responsive teaching. It really is, because you're allowing students to see that all of the images that they're seeing online all the time, they shouldn't just like and retweet. They really need to stop. And they need to look at what's happening, and they need to figure out, right? Like what are the messages that are being sent here? Goes back to that media triangle too.
So amazing. I think we've learned so much tonight, Jen. Thank you for sharing so
Oh,
much wisdom and helping us to reminding us that we have a responsibility too, as educators, as anyone who works with anyone who uses social media. That would be me in my role as well. So I think it's important that we remember our responsibility and how important it is to have these ideas at the forefront. I really like the idea when you just talked about, allowing people to see, first of all, whose voice isn't heard. That really stuck out to me. I think it's just a great conversation, no matter what team meeting we're having or collaborative setting that we're in, when we are making these decisions. I think that should always be a question that we pose in those settings. Whose voice isn't heard right now when we're making this decision? Because we want to make sure that we try to at least consider their perspective. And so that was something that just really stood out to me. I think that would work for any role, no matter your profession. If you're watching this and you're not in teaching, it doesn't matter. That would be a great question to be able to ask your team when you're making big decisions. So yeah, Jen, that was awesome.
I'm glad it resonated. I just shared a very long link in the private chat. You can throw it in the comments if you like.
Yeah.
And please reach out. You can find me online at Jenn Casa-Todd on Twitter. Facebook is kind of my family place, so I don't really accept a lot of friends and family, but I am on Instagram at Jenn Casa-Todd, and I blog at jcasatodd.com.
Perfect. Yes, we definitely want to connect with you. And you want to be on the lookout for her new book, Raising Digital Leaders. You're definitely going to see that. If you're a parent or you work with parents, this will be a perfect book for you. So if you work with students, we know you work with parents. So if you're out there and you fit any of those roles, you need this book, and it'll be out really, really soon. So Jen, thanks again for joining us. Remember, all of the comments over in the comment section will be chosen to win a free book. We give away these books after the chat. It's usually on Friday or Saturday. I used to be Friday morning, but I've been forgetting. Sometimes it's on Saturday. But
there's a lot going on.
I do always go back and make sure I give away a free book. So one of you will be a lucky winner. If you're watching this on the playback, you have all the way until I announce the winner to make a comment. So do that. We do check them over on YouTube and on Facebook. So have a great evening, everyone. Remember, next Thursday, same place, same time, different guest, and you don't want to miss it. So have a great one. Thank you, Jen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks, everyone.